Captain Marcus Hawley had faced many battlefields, but nothing prepared him for Zephyra. The alien planet hung in the void like a jewel of blue and green, yet it was scarred by war. Cities were reduced to twisted metal, forests burned to ash, and the air carried a strange metallic tang. Humanity had come to conquer, or at least survive, but Marcus had never expected that. Survival would mean protecting someone he was supposed to see as an enemy. The squad had been ordered to sweep the northern sector, rooting out any remaining alien forces. Marcus, a man of discipline and precision, followed the orders without question. Yet when they entered the ruins of a shattered city, his boots crunching on broken glass and debris, something caught his eye, a small figure huddled beneath the remains of a collapsed building. She was tiny, no more than 7 Earth years old, with silver hair that shimmered even in the dim alien light. Her golden eyes, wide and fearful, locked onto him. Marcus froze. He had seen the aftermath of countless battles, but the raw terror in those eyes, it was different. It was pure, unshielded, and it cut deeper than any wound he had suffered. "Move," barked Lieutenant Carr, gesturing to continue. "We don't have time for children." Marcus shook his head, his heart tightening. "We can't leave her," he said simply. The words surprised even him, coming out firmer than intended. The officers looked at him as though he had grown a second head. "She's the enemy." Carr snapped. "Orders are orders. We're not here to play nurse." Marcus didn't argue. Instead, he approached slowly, speaking softly in the common language of the Interstellar Coalition. "It's okay," he said, kneeling down. "I won't hurt you." The child flinched at every movement, pressing herself against the rubble. Her lips trembled as she whispered in her alien tongue, but Marcus didn't understand the words. The tone, however, was clear. It was fear. Pure, desperate fear. He reached into his pack and took out a small ration bar. Slowly, he extended it toward her. She eyed it warily, as if expecting it to be a trap. Marcus's heart ached. She was starving, alone, and completely vulnerable. He whispered again, gently, "You don't have to be afraid. I'm here to help." After what felt like an eternity, she took the food. Her small hand brushed his, and Marcus felt a jolt of something he couldn't name. It wasn't duty, not exactly. It was something deeper. Something human. The squad watched silently. Some were shocked, some annoyed, but Marcus ignored them. He lifted her carefully, making sure not to jostle her. The child stiffened, but Marcus held her close, murmuring reassurances in her alien tongue, hoping the sound of his voice would comfort her. As they moved back to the temporary camp, Marcus kept glancing at her. Her golden eyes were fixed on him, curious now, hesitant, but no longer terrified. He wondered what horrors she had seen, what had made her so small, so alone. He promised himself he would protect her, no matter what. That night, as they settled in the camp, Marcus wrapped a thin blanket around her shoulders. The other soldiers had gone to rest, but he stayed awake, listening to the wind howl over the alien ruins. The child curled against him, finally allowing herself a fragile trust. Marcus whispered stories of Earth, stories of children, of laughter, of home, to keep her mind from the destruction she had seen. He didn't know if she understood the words, but her eyes softened, and that was enough. Marcus realized something then. War could take many forms, but humanity could still shine through in small, simple acts. A meal, a gentle word, a shield against harm. He stayed there long after the others had fallen asleep, staring at the alien sky. The stars were different here, brighter, sharper, almost mocking in their beauty. Marcus's mind wandered to the reality of the choice he had made. He was a soldier trained to destroy enemies, not to guard them. Yet here he was, holding the child of the one species he was supposed to fight, and somewhere deep in his chest, Marcus felt a spark of something unfamiliar: hope. Not for victory, not for glory, but hope that even in war, the smallest acts of courage and kindness could change the course of lives. As the night stretched on, the child finally closed her eyes, trusting him enough to sleep. Marcus kept his hand on her back, a silent promise to protect her from all the dangers yet to come. In that moment, he understood that this mission, this child, was no longer about orders or duty. It was about humanity, in its purest form. And Marcus Hawley would not fail. The morning sun rose over the ruined city, painting the sky with colors that seemed too beautiful for a place so broken. Captain Marcus Hawley sat quietly, the small child Lyra, as he had decided to call her, curled against his side. She had refused to speak at first, but her eyes now followed him constantly, full of curiosity and cautious trust. Marcus knew he was becoming more than a soldier. He was becoming her guardian. The War Council's voice echoed in his mind, harsh and commanding. You are not here to babysit the enemy. Follow orders, or face the consequences. Marcus had faced disciplinary threats before, but never had a decision weighed so heavily on him. Every instinct screamed to obey, yet something deeper, the core of his humanity, pushed him in another direction. Lieutenant Carr approached him that morning, the tension in his posture unmistakable. Captain, the Council is sending a retrieval team. You have to hand the child over, he said sharply. She is an asset, not a responsibility. Do you understand? Marcus met his eyes steadily. I understand, he said, his voice calm but unwavering. And I also understand what it means to be human. This child, she is not a weapon. She is not a prize. She is alive, and I will not let anyone take that from her. Carr's jaw tightened. You're risking everything, your career, your life, for a child who isn't even human. Marcus stood slowly, holding Lyra's hand lightly. That's exactly why I must do this, he said softly. Because one day, she might show us that war isn't the only way. And maybe she'll remind us what it means to care. For the first time, Lyra spoke clearly. Her small, melodic voice trembled. Why? Why do you protect me? Marcus knelt to her level, looking into her golden eyes. Because it is right, he said simply. And because no one should face the world alone, not even a child. The Council's messengers arrived soon after, but Marcus refused to give her up. He trained the squad to focus on defense, setting up barricades and traps around the camp. He taught Lyra how to recognize danger, how to move quietly, and how to stay calm when fear tried to overtake her. She was quick to learn, her sharp mind a mirror of the cunning adults who had trained her, but Marcus insisted she remain a child, letting her laugh and play whenever he could steal a moment of peace for her, despite the danger. The small bond between them grew stronger each day. Lyra began to trust him in ways she had never trusted anyone before. She followed him through the ruined streets, mimicking his careful movements, asking questions about the stars, the plants, the human world beyond her reach. Marcus answered patiently, even inventing stories when he didn't have the words. She would giggle at his silly attempts to imitate her alien language, and for a brief moment, the weight of war seemed lighter, but the shadow of conflict was never far. Scouts reported enemy patrols closing in, their numbers growing with each passing day. Marcus knew the time would come when hiding would not be enough. And yet, every time he looked at Lyra's innocent face, the thought of surrendering her filled him with unbearable dread. One night, as they huddled together under the stars, Lyra whispered, "Will they take me?" Marcus held her close, his voice steady despite the fear gnawing at him. "No," he said, his hand gently stroking her silver hair. "As long as I breathe, no one will harm you. I promise." Lyra buried her face against his chest, and Marcus felt the full weight of the promise he had just made. He was a soldier trained for war, for orders, for destruction, but here, in this moment, he realized that the greatest battle he had ever fought was not with weapons, but with conscience and courage. Days turned into a rhythm of quiet survival. Marcus and Lyra moved through the ruins, scavenging for supplies, sharing stories, and preparing for the inevitable confrontation. Each day, Marcus's resolve grew stronger, fueled not by orders or loyalty to a flag, but by the fragile trust of a child who had nothing but him. He understood now what true duty meant. It was not following commands blindly. It was protecting the innocent, even when doing so meant standing against the world. And Marcus Holly had made his choice. He would guard Lyra, no matter the cost, no matter the enemies waiting in the shadows, because some things, hope, compassion, life itself, were worth fighting for. Even in the heart of war, the night was thick and silent, except for the soft whisper of wind through the ruined buildings. Captain Marcus Hawley stood watch, his senses sharpened. Every shadow could hide a threat, every sound could signal danger. He had fought countless battles, but nothing tested him like guarding Lyra, the child of the enemy. She slept quietly beside him, her small chest rising and falling, trusting him completely. Marcus's heart ached with the weight of that trust. Reports had come in that patrols were moving closer. The alien army had learned of her survival. They would not rest, and they would not stop until she was returned or eliminated. Marcus knew the approaching battle could wipe them out. Yet, there was no hesitation in his mind. He had made a choice, and he would honor it, no matter the cost. By dawn, the first patrol arrived. Marcus spotted them moving through the twisted ruins, their strange armor glinting in the weak morning light. He felt a surge of adrenaline but also calm. He had prepared for this. He had set traps, fortified the camp, and planned escape routes. Yet nothing could truly prepare him for the sight of soldiers moving toward the sleeping child. "Stay low," he whispered to Lyra, who immediately pressed herself against the ground, eyes wide but attentive. Marcus's hand brushed her hair as he checked his weapon. "I've got you," he murmured. The patrol advanced, unaware of the traps laid for them. A series of small explosions erupted, catching several enemies off guard. Marcus moved with precise efficiency, striking when needed but always keeping an eye on Lyra. She watched, silent but fascinated, as he fought not with anger, but with purpose. Every movement was to protect her, every decision deliberate. When the battle drew closer to the camp, Marcus took a deep breath. His arms moved like clockwork, deflecting attacks, disarming enemies, shielding Lyra from harm. One alien soldier lunged at him, energy blade raised. Marcus twisted, taking the hit on his shoulder rather than letting it reach her. Pain shot through him, but he gritted his teeth, refusing to fall. Lyra's small hands clutched his arm, trembling, and he whispered, "I won't let anything happen to you." Hours passed in a blur of smoke, shouts, and explosions. Marcus fought with skill born of experience, but also with desperation. He could not allow the child to see death, not like this. She had already seen too much of the war's cruelty. At one point, Lyra slipped from the shelter of a crumbling wall, drawn by fear and curiosity. Marcus's heart leapt. He lunged, catching her just as a blast tore through the nearby rubble. She cried out, and Marcus held her tight, murmuring reassurances in her alien tongue, trying to soothe her terror. By the time the last of the patrols retreated, the camp was in ruins. Smoke and debris filled the air, and Marcus's body ached from every scrape, every blow he had taken. But Lyra was safe. She clung to him, her golden eyes shining with trust and something new, admiration. Perhaps even love for the man who had risked everything for her. That night, Marcus sat by the smoldering remains of the camp, holding Lyra close. She rested her head against his chest, and he felt the full weight of what he had done. He had fought for many things in his life: honor, duty, victory. But this was different. This was about saving innocence in a universe that seemed determined to destroy it. He whispered to her, "You're safe now. I'll keep you safe, no matter what comes." Lyra's small hand pressed against his cheek. For a moment, he let himself imagine a world where war did not exist, where a human and an alien child could laugh together under the stars, without fear. But reality was relentless. Marcus knew the enemy would return, stronger and more determined. The patrol had only been a test. And yet, in the heart of destruction, he also knew something powerful. He had given Lyra a reason to hope. He had given her a shield, a protector, and perhaps even a friend in the darkest of times. For Marcus, that was enough. He would fight again. He would endure pain, and he would face death if necessary. Because this was no longer about orders or missions. This was about life, trust, and the fragile, precious hope of a child who believed in him, and Marcus Halle would not let that hope be broken. The war had left Sci-Fi in ruins. Yet amid the ashes, life slowly persisted. Captain Marcus Halle and Lyra moved carefully through the broken streets, scavenging supplies and searching for a safe place to rest. The patrols had stopped for now, giving them a brief window of peace, but Marcus knew it was only temporary. Danger was never far, yet he felt a strange comfort in these quiet hours. Lyra, once trembling and silent, had begun to trust him. She walked beside him, her small hand occasionally brushing against his, a gesture that spoke of fragile confidence. Marcus had given her a name she could speak easily, and she had started calling him Guardian. The word was simple, but it carried immense meaning. It was a bond forged not in war, but in care and protection. "Tell me about your home," Lyra asked one morning, her golden eyes bright with curiosity as they rested beneath the shadow of a shattered building. Marcus smiled, adjusting the strap of his pack. "Earth is a world full of water, green forests, and cities that reach the sky," he said gently. "People there laugh, cry, celebrate. Just like you. Life is messy, but it is beautiful." Lyra tilted her head, trying to imagine a place so different from her own devastated world. "And, did you have a family?" she asked, voice barely above a whisper. Marcus hesitated. Memories of Earth, of his home and the people he had lost in the war, surfaced. He knelt beside her, resting a hand lightly on her shoulder. "I did," he said softly. "And that is why I know. Even in the darkest times, someone needs to care. Someone needs to protect those who cannot protect themselves." Her small hand covered his, pressing it gently. It was a simple gesture, but it carried more weight than any medal, any recognition. Marcus felt a warmth in his chest he hadn't known he could feel in the midst of war. Here was a life entirely dependent on him, trusting him without question, and in return, he was discovering a strength he hadn't realized he possessed. Days passed, and the two found small joys in the midst of destruction. Marcus made crude toys from scraps, teaching Lyra to build little figures from bent metal and wires. She laughed freely for the first time since the war began, the sound ringing like fragile music through the ruined streets at night. They sat under the alien sky, stars strange and sharp, and Marcus told her stories of Earth, tales of rivers and mountains, of children playing in fields of green, of the smell of rain on dry soil. Lyra listened intently, eyes wide, imagining a world she might never see. And sometimes, in her laughter and wonder, Marcus allowed himself to imagine it too, a world where humans and aliens could coexist, where hope and kindness mattered more than war. Yet, Marcus never let his guard down completely. He taught Lyra basic skills to keep her safe, how to listen for approaching threats, how to move silently, how to hide and protect herself if he could not reach her. Each lesson strengthened her, but it also strengthened him, reminding him that courage was not just about fighting, it was about preparing others to survive. One afternoon, Lyra stopped, staring at him with an intensity that made his chest tighten. "Guardian, will you always protect me?" she asked, her voice small but firm. Marcus knelt, meeting her gaze. "I promise," he said. "As long as I breathe, you will never face this world alone. You are my responsibility, and I will not fail you." Lyra smiled then, a quiet, radiant smile that seemed to illuminate the ruins around them. Marcus felt a rush of emotion so strong that he almost wished for words to describe it. He realized that his life, once defined by orders and duty, had gained a new meaning. In protecting Lyra, he had discovered the essence of humanity, not in war, not in conquest, but in care, compassion, and courage. As they continued their journey, side by side, Marcus noticed how much she had grown, not just in strength, but in spirit. And he knew that whatever dangers awaited, whatever battles loomed on the horizon, their bond would endure. It was stronger than fear, stronger than the ruins of a world at war, stronger than the hate that had brought them to Zephyra in the first place. For the first time in a long time, Marcus Hawley felt a sense of purpose that no mission, no order, and no battlefield could ever give him. He was not just a soldier. He was a guardian. And he would protect this child, the enemy's child, with every ounce of his being. Until the very end, the sun rose slowly over the shattered city of Zephyra, casting long shadows across the broken streets. Captain Marcus Hawley walked carefully, Lyra following close behind. The small child moved with cautious curiosity, her golden eyes wide as she observed the ruins around them. Despite the constant danger, she had begun to trust him, calling him softly, "Guardian," a word that carried more meaning than Marcus could ever have imagined. The days were a mix of survival and small, stolen moments of peace. Marcus taught her how to move quietly through the rubble, how to spot signs of approaching danger, and how to protect herself if he could not reach her. She was a quick learner, and he watched with pride as her confidence grew. But Marcus also made sure she laughed, played, and remembered that she was still a child, not just a survivor. One morning, while searching a ruined building for supplies, Lyra stopped and looked at him with a curious expression. "Guardian, what is Earth like?" she asked, her voice soft but eager. Marcus knelt beside her, brushing a lock of silver hair from her face. "Earth is full of forests, rivers, mountains, and cities that stretch high into the sky. People there laugh, sing, and play. Life is messy, but it is beautiful." Lyra's eyes sparkled. "And, did you have a family?" she asked cautiously. Marcus's chest tightened. Memories of his home, of people he had lost in the war, came rushing back. He swallowed hard and nodded. "I did. And that is why I understand the importance of protecting someone who cannot protect themselves. Everyone deserves someone to care for them." Lyra reached out and pressed her small hand against his. Marcus felt a warmth that had nothing to do with the sun or the day. It was trust, fragile yet profound. He realized that this child, the enemy's child, had already changed him in ways he could not have imagined. Over the following days, Marcus and Lyra found ways to create moments of joy amidst the ruins. Marcus fashioned crude toys from scraps of metal and wires. Lyra laughed freely, the sound like delicate music against the backdrop of destruction. At night, they would sit beneath the alien stars, Marcus telling stories of Earth, of children running through green fields, rain falling on dusty roads, and animals that roamed freely. Lyra listened intently, her imagination painting worlds far from the devastation she had known. Yet, Marcus never let his guard down completely. He reinforced the camp, set traps, and taught Lyra how to recognize danger. She was small, but she had spirit and courage, and he made sure she knew how to survive. Each day, he marveled at her resilience. She had seen horrors he could not erase, yet she laughed, asked questions, and clung to hope. One quiet afternoon, as the wind whispered through the ruins, Lyra looked at Marcus with an intensity that made him pause. "Guardian, will you always protect me?" she asked. Her voice trembled, carrying fear, hope, and trust all at once. Marcus knelt and held her hands gently. "I promise," he said, his voice steady and warm. "No matter what happens, you will never face this world alone. I will protect you, always." Lyra smiled then, a soft radiant smile that seemed to light up the gray ruins around them. Marcus felt a surge of emotion so strong that it left him momentarily speechless. He realized that his life, once defined by duty and orders, had gained a new purpose. In protecting Lyra, he had discovered the essence of humanity, courage, compassion, and the unwavering choice to stand for life even in the darkest times. As they continued moving through the desolate city, side by side, Marcus saw how much Lyra had grown, not just in skill, but in spirit. She asked questions, laughed, and showed signs of wonder at the smallest things, reminding him that life was more than just war. Their bond, forged in fear and strengthened by trust, became a source of strength for both of them. Marcus knew the enemy would return. The danger was never gone. Yet, in the quiet moments between battles, he understood something profound. Protecting Lyra was no longer just an obligation or a mission. It was a promise of hope, a declaration that even amidst ruin, humanity could shine through. For the first time in a long while, Marcus Halle felt a sense of purpose that went beyond orders, medals, and strategy. He was not just a soldier. He was a guardian. And he would protect this child, the enemy's child, with everything he had, until his last breath. The sun had barely risen when Marcus sensed the change in the air. The usual quiet had vanished, replaced by a low hum of movement. Enemy patrols, more organized and larger than before. Marcus's heart tightened. The final attack had come. There was no hiding this time. No clever traps or quiet paths through the ruins could keep Lyra safe if they didn't face the danger head-on. He knelt beside her, brushing a lock of silver hair from her face. "Lyra," he whispered, "you need to stay close. Do exactly what I say, and no harm will come to you." She nodded, her small hands gripping his jacket tightly, eyes filled with fear, but also trust. That trust burned in Marcus's chest like fire, and he swore he would protect her at any cost. The first wave of enemy soldiers emerged from the broken streets, their armor glinting in the weak light. Marcus moved with precision, using the ruined walls for cover. He fired carefully, striking just enough to keep them back, always watching Lyra, always keeping her in the shadows. She crouched behind him, silent, her golden eyes wide as she saw the first real taste of combat since they had met. One alien soldier broke through the barricade and lunged toward her. Marcus reacted instinctively, throwing himself in the path of the strike. Pain shot through his shoulder as the energy blade grazed him, but he refused to fall. Lyra's small scream hit him like a punch to the chest. He twisted, shielding her with his body, murmuring, "I've got you. I won't let them take you." The battle raged for hours, a chaotic storm of gunfire, explosions, and shouted commands. Marcus fought not with anger, but with desperate purpose. Every movement, every shot, was meant to protect the small life he had sworn to guard. He ducked, rolled, and struck with precise efficiency, aware that one mistake could cost Lyra her life. At one point, Lyra froze in terror as a blast tore through a nearby wall, sending debris flying toward her. Marcus dove, pulling her into his arms, taking the weight of the falling rubble on his back. Pain lanced through his legs, his ribs, but he gritted his teeth. She cried softly against him, and he held her close, whispering reassurances in her alien tongue. She clung to him tightly, her golden eyes searching his face. When the last of the patrols finally retreated, Marcus collapsed against the rubble, sweat and blood covering him, body aching from the blows he had taken. Yet Lyra was safe. She pressed herself against him, trembling, and he felt a surge of emotion he couldn't describe: pride, and an overwhelming love for this small child who had become his responsibility. As the dust settled, Marcus looked around at the destruction. Their temporary shelter was gone, their supplies scattered, and yet, amid all the chaos, he felt a quiet satisfaction. He had done it. He had protected her. And in doing so, he had proven something to himself, something far more important than any medal or mission. He whispered gently to Lyra, brushing her hair from her face. "You're safe now. I promised, remember? Nothing will harm you while I'm here." She looked up at him, tears in her golden eyes, and smiled. It was a small, fragile smile, but it lit up the ruins around them like sunlight through storm clouds. Marcus knew this victory was temporary. The enemy would return, stronger and more determined. But for now, they had survived. For now, Lyra was alive and he had kept his promise. That was enough. He held her through the night, listening to her soft breaths, feeling the steady rise and fall of her chest. Marcus understood that he was no longer just a soldier, no longer just a human fighting a war. He was a guardian, a protector, a shield against the darkness of the universe for a child who had nowhere else to turn. And he knew that if the universe demanded a choice between his life and hers, he would not hesitate. Lyra's life was his mission, his honor, and his heart. For Marcus Halle, the war had taken many things from him, but it had given him one truth he would never forget: protecting the innocent, even the child of an enemy, was the most courageous act of all. And he would do it again, 1,000 times over, without a second thought. The ruins were quiet once more, but Marcus knew it was only temporary. He had fought off the enemy patrols, protected Lyra with every ounce of his being, and survived against impossible odds. But now, a new presence approached, one that made even Marcus pause. She appeared without warning, stepping from the shadows of a crumbled tower. Tall, regal, and terrifying, the alien queen radiated authority and power. Her silver hair shimmered like liquid moonlight, and her eyes golden, like Lyra's, pierced Marcus's very soul. He instinctively stepped in front of Lyra, shielding her. Though he had no weapons raised at that, the queen's gaze softened only slightly as it fell on her child. Lyra, trembling but curious, peered up at the towering figure. Marcus held her hand tightly, feeling the small pulse of fear and wonder against his fingers. He knew this encounter could determine everything. "You." The queen's voice was low, melodic, yet carried the weight of command. "You risked everything for her." Marcus met her eyes steadily, refusing to bow or flinch. "Yes," he said simply. "She is a child. That is all that matters." The queen's gaze shifted between them, sharp and calculating. "Your species fought mine. You should have killed her or left her to die, yet you protected her." She stepped closer, and Marcus could feel the immense power radiating from her, enough to crush him if she willed it. Yet she did not attack. Instead, she studied him, as if searching for something deep within his soul. Lyra spoke softly. "Guardian." "She is my mother." Marcus nodded slightly. "I know." The queen's golden eyes softened as she looked at Marcus again. "Tell me your name, human," she said, her voice almost a whisper. "I want to know the one who guarded my child when the universe itself seemed against her." Marcus hesitated. For a moment, he thought of the countless soldiers who had died in the war, of the destruction that surrounded them, and of the thin line between fear and trust. But when he looked at Lyra, sleeping peacefully in his arms, he knew there was only one choice. "Marcus Halle," he said, his voice calm but firm. "I am Marcus Halle." The alien queen repeated the name, testing its weight, her golden eyes reflecting something he did not expect: respect. "Marcus Halle," she said slowly, as if the syllables themselves were sacred. "You are remarkable." Marcus felt a surge of emotion he could not name. He had never sought recognition or praise, yet hearing these words from one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy stirred a strange sense of pride. But it was not pride in himself, it was pride in keeping his promise, in protecting life, in honoring trust when it mattered most. "You saved her life," the queen continued, her voice softening further. "You did what no one else dared. You are welcome in my world, human, always." Marcus blinked, unsure how to respond. He had never thought of friendship or allegiance beyond his own kind. Yet here, standing before the most powerful alien alive, he realized that some actions transcended war, nationality, and species. Courage, compassion, and honor could be recognized across worlds.